いてめえ金木どんだけサボってんだこの野郎。
俺がどんだけ大変だったか分かってんのか。
おい聞いてんのかよ金木。
あ、ごめん、なんだっけ。
3.5 years, guys. Let that sink in just for a moment. We have been waiting since the ending of Tokyo Ghoul to this very chapter 164 of Tokyo Ghoul Re. 3.5 years for this exact moment to occur. And Kaneki, within the manga timeline, has been waiting about 4 years to get the confirmation that he did not eat and kill his best friend back during the ending of part 1. He learned that last chapter in 163 that Hide was alive, and I am so glad that Ishida did not waste any time. He did not drag this meeting out, and we finally, by the ending of this chapter, had Kaneki and Hide sitting on top of the roof of this building, just talking back and forth, Hide joking around with Kaneki as if no time has passed, and then shows Kaneki his face. Kaneki gets to look at it, see what he did to his best friend, come to terms with that, and then ask his friend to help him because he's tired of not being able to do anything. We have come full circle, guys. This chapter was an excellent chapter. It was a good chapter up until the Hide moment, but once we got to that conversation, it just elevated this chapter that much more. And of course, I will be talking about all the other stuff that transpired in this week's latest chapter. Everything dealing with Psycho, that cute Toka and Kaneki moment we had, Kaneki's supposed immunity to the R.O.S poison, and of course, how can we not talk about hashtag Furuta fake news. We will be talking about all of that good stuff, but I want to start by talking about the ending of this chapter. Those last 3 pages with the Kaneki and Hide conversation. And this really does go to show how strong and deep the friendship is between Kaneki and Hide, because once Kaneki makes his way up to the roof and he spots Hide, they both make eye contact and they just exchange, yo. They just dive into their conversation, and their conversation just feels so natural. It's not weird, it's not awkward, there's no weird exchanges. Hide is joking around with Kaneki as if they just saw each other last week. This conversation does not feel as if they've been absent and away from each other for the past 4 years. I love the fact that it feels so natural. Hide is joking around with Kaneki, and Kaneki is just having a good time talking with his best friend again. This just goes to show how long these guys have been friends. And when you realize that these two have essentially been best friends since elementary school, and they have grown up together from that point moving forward, you go from elementary school to the present timeline in chapter 164, and it becomes blatantly clear that Kaneki and Hide are quintessential pieces to each other's lives. And I dare say, they are not just best friends, they are brothers. There is not one thing the one person would not do for the other. They would go and walk to the ends of the earth just to make sure that the other person is okay. So I really do like that these are the type of emotions that these last 3 pages in this conversation is giving me between Kaneki and Hide. But what I like about the ending of the conversation before we get the face reveal is that we do get the clarification that Hide was in fact the one that sent Haize the Takatsuki book back during 31.5. I'm glad that was confirmed. Basically, we all knew it was Hide, but it's just nice to have that 100% confirmation that it was in fact Hide. But once we reach the ending of the conversation, Kaneki finally builds up the courage and asks Hide, can you take off the scarf and can you show me your face? I want to see what I did to you. Even though Hide is still cracking jokes with Kaneki before he takes off the scarf, basically by saying, oh, I haven't put on my makeup today, he is trying to make Kaneki feel better before he actually sees the damage that Hide actually has upon his face. But once we actually come to see what the damage actually looks like to Hide's face, it is pretty disfigured. The entire lower half of Hide's face, from the ears and nose down, is completely scarred and disfigured. He's got no lips. He most likely even has some teeth missing. The scars even reach onto his neck, going a little bit onto his chest. And we even come to see the speaking apparatus that is plugged into his neck. That way he is able to communicate. And even though Hide is horribly disfigured, he's actually able to pull off the Hachikawa look fairly well. And when you place Hide side by side with Kaneki when he wears his ghoul mask, they actually share a striking similarity. But to get serious, Kaneki actually handles this reveal fairly well and tells Hide, well, you were always the one to hide things from me that I did not want to see. You always protected me. And ends up saying to Hide, I'm going to bear it all. I'm going to bear all of my sins. The sins I committed upon the city, but also your wounds as well. And we finally come full circle with Kaneki's character, where he is starting to rely on others in order to get things done, because he says to Hide, I'm going to need you guys to help me out because I am tired of being unable to do anything. This is a wonderful moment for Kaneki's character, because I think with Hide finally coming back, this was the extra push Kaneki needed in order to make that revelation within his mind that he cannot put all the pressure upon himself. Like he did with chapter 143, rushing back to HQ to go fight with the ambush. He did that alone, and look what happened. Dragon ended up coming about. But now he knows that he needs to rely on everybody else, and this is going to be very interesting to see what actually transpires moving forward from this, because now we're going to see Kaneki actually relying on other people in order to help him out in these situations. I am so glad this happened, and this was a wonderful way to end off this chapter with Kaneki and Hide having their reunion, but also having Kaneki realize, I can't do everything by myself. And even though that is the ending of the chapter, there are other aspects throughout this chapter where we get some good information that definitely clarifies on how the R.O.S. disease is being spread throughout Tokyo, going from Dragon down to the Kagane monsters as they infect the citizens of Tokyo. So let's rewind, go back to the beginning of this chapter, where we actually have news reporter Furuta waiting down at the scene where he is currently interviewing some Kagane monsters. And I think it goes without saying that for the first 5 pages of this chapter, Furuta is just trolling everybody the entire time. He is well aware of how Dragon operates and what it is currently doing to the citizens of Tokyo. And he even gives a detailed diagram and explanation on how Dragon operates, how Dragon, these towers are creating the Kagane monsters, and these Kagane monsters are just reaching out, looking for citizens of Tokyo to devour. That way they can bring that energy back to the Dragon towers. That way it can just create more Kagane monsters. But if anybody ends up killing or destroying these Kagane monsters before they can get back to Dragon, they explode, spreading R.O.S. disease to the citizens of Tokyo, turning them into ghouls, and just having this vicious cycle continue of these people now being a part of the process, bringing that energy back to Dragon. At this point, this man is just giving away this information for shits and or giggles. Furuta is having way too much fun with his grand master plan. I would not even be surprised if being a news reporter wasn't originally a part of the plan, and he just threw that in there just to have fun while he's giving away this information, because look at this face on this man as he is shouting, "Don't give up, kids." This is a man who's got everything planned out, and he's just having a grand old time trolling everybody. So that right there is basically all we have with Furuta in this week's latest chapter. As Kaneki, Urei, and Saiko arrive on the scene, it turns out that that was just a recording of Furuta. He is basically in the wind right now. We don't know where he is. He most likely is with Rize somewhere doing God knows what. But because he was able to record that in advance, it just goes to show how many steps ahead he is of Kaneki in all of this. But then as we transition into the next section, something strange is happening with Saiko, and I was both excited and worried when this got brought up. I was worried because we see Saiko experiencing some R.O.S. symptoms with a Kagane stretching out from her face, out of her eye. I'm worried for Saiko because I don't want anything ever bad to happen to Saiko. But I was excited also because this was brought up a few chapters ago and it kind of got resolved, and I was wondering, where are we going with this? This is where we're going with it. We see Saiko, Urei, and Kaneki getting surrounded by Kagane monsters, and this section in particular has some great moments for Urei's character. Saiko is willing to sacrifice herself so that way Urei and Kaneki can escape, but this section builds to the climactic moment when Kaneki just explodes, not only with his Kagane, but with emotion. Kaneki right now does not want to witness Saiko and Urei perish in this situation, and he begins to think back to everybody rescuing him from Dragon, everybody around him as he lied unconscious, waiting for him to wake up. He does not want to be that person that is unable to do anything. And we end up having this awesome, very well drawn panel of just Kaneki just having that emotion exude from his body, where he is stating in his mind, I'm tired of not being able to do anything. And once we go to that double spread page of Kaneki's Kagane just exploding from his body, this is just visually pleasing in and of itself, but it is such just a grand drawing that Ishida has presented to us in this double spread page. Kaneki's Kagane basically looks like wings stretching out from his back as it is just cutting through all of the Kagane monsters. I'm not sure if they're devouring the Kagane monsters, whether it's absorbing them or just basically exterminating them on sight, but this is just awesome to see. But from this moment, this is when we start to get the revelations concerning to do with Kaneki. We come to learn that he is immune to the R.O.S. poison, but we also come to get a really cool reveal that his hands have returned to normal, and Ishida made this abundantly clear. Before Kaneki's explosion, we see Ishida draw out 3 panels that zoomed in on Kaneki's hand that definitely emphasize the fact that yes, Kaneki's hands are still disfigured. They are not normal as of yet. But once we go post-explosion, Kaneki looks down at his hands and is surprised to see normal human hands. He's got all 5 fingers. Everything looks okay with his hands. We just don't know why they ended up returning to normal. This could be due to the fact that he just exploded with so many RC cells that he just went back to a normal level. It could be due to the fact that he just absorbed the R.O.S. poison, which caused his hands to go back to normal. Or it could be because of the new organs he has in his body that make him immune to the disease. We still don't know, but this is a good indication that by the ending of the series, Kaneki has a good possibility of his body returning to normal. So from here, Kaneki and Urei are able to get Saiko to safety. They end up leaving her in Kimi's care. Saiko does still have the Kagane coming out of her eye, but with Kimi watching over her, I think she is going to be fine. But it's looking as if right now, with this new revelation with Kaneki, that a cure is within sight. Because as we come to learn, with Kaneki's new organs, he is in fact immune to the R.O.S. poison. So if they study Kaneki just a little bit more, they can most likely extract a cure from Kaneki's body and deliver it to everybody right now experiencing R.O.S. And from here, we basically transition to the Kaneki and Hide conversation. But before that happens, we have a very nice but brief Kaneki and Toka moment, because Toka understands that Kaneki has been waiting for this moment to talk with his best friend for such a long time. So she has been looking for Kaneki, that way she can tell him where Hide currently is, that way he can go talk with him. Toka is the best. She treats Kaneki so well. I am so glad they are married. Kaneki, you better give Toka a lot of love after this, because she is just such a good woman. And I am also hoping that we do end up diving into the conversation on how the child is. It's been a long time since we've actually heard any good news on whether or not that child is alive or not. So I'm hoping we dive into that into the next chapter. But that ends up transitioning into the Hide conversation, and that is basically the ending of the chapter. A really enjoyable chapter, guys. This was a good chapter up until the Hide moment, but the Hide moment just made it an excellent chapter, and I am really excited to see where we go into the future chapters and how much longer we actually have until we reach the end of Tokyo Ghoul Re, because as it's set up right now, there is still a lot of stuff that needs to be done in order to get rid of the R.O.S. disease, to confront Furuta, to deal with Rize. There's a lot of things still left on the table that still needs to be addressed, but I am confident that Ishida has that all planned out right now, because as of right now, that theory of 206 chapters does seem plausible. But that is my review, guys, for chapter 164. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this week's latest chapter, specifically about the Kaneki and Hide conversation. Leave that down in the comments below. And if you guys want to talk about Tokyo Ghoul outside of YouTube, feel free to follow me on Twitter, guys. I have a lot of fun tweeting about Tokyo Ghoul, getting to speculate with you guys, and just having an overall fun conversation on Twitter. So if you guys want to join in on that conversation, a link to my Twitter can be found in the description below. But that's going to be it for this review, guys. Chapter 165 comes out next week for Tokyo Ghoul Re. But until then, I'll talk with you guys later. Bye, guys.